Yeah. Oh, I see that you like the intro music, Dr. Bill.
I'm having trouble hearing you.
Oh, okay. That's weird.
There it is.
You can hear me now?
Hear you now.
Perfect. Okay. Well, let's go. Thank you. Thank you. We already have Silence Dude here in the audience. I'm happy to do another show today, and it's a very exciting one because we have a generative art OG with us, Dr. Beal, and we also have Statsy here that is his kind of manager representative. We're going to talk about it. I'm also curious. So yeah, excited to be here. How are you, Dr. Beal? Can you please introduce
I
yourself?
am alive and well and happy and living in Florida. Beautiful day today.
Let's go. Let's go. Well, Statsy, how are you? Are you excited?
Doing well, thank you. How are you, Gerard?
Well, I'm always happy. These kind of shows, we are just starting with them. I think it's the third or fourth one that we are doing, and I already can see myself doing this every week, interviewing a new person, and yeah, just showcasing new artists, new art. It's gonna be exciting. Okay, great. Well, for everyone that's listening to us, please, if you want this to reach out to more people, just like, retweet, and maybe comment a few things on the main post so more people know about it because this is going to be a great interview. I don't know if some of you already know about Dr. Beal, but I'm sure that you will like him. Okay, perfect. We have art. Perfect. Okay, well, Dr. Beal, I wanted to start by introducing yourself a little bit. You have been a generative art OG, or at least that's how we call it today. So you started computer art in the 70s, which is super early. I was talking to my brother earlier today. I was like, yeah, I'm going to interview a generative artist OG from the 70s. I was like, what? This kind of art existed in the 70s? I'm like, yeah, watch the show and you will discover this. So yeah, I wanted to first ask about your journey because you started in the early 70s and today you are also playing with NFTs. What happened?
Okay, well, my journey began when I was in college. I saw that the computer was a new thing and that people were doing drawings on the computer. Uh, I saw some images done by William Fetter at Boeing Laboratories of a human figure reaching in a cockpit, ergonomic design prototypes, and it fascinated me. I was majoring in industrial design at the time, and I wanted to draw on the computer. So I was lucky enough in the 70's, there was only three groups of people that had access to computers: people
Yeah.
in government, people in big business, and people at universities. So I was lucky enough to be at a university, Michigan State University, and I was had a teaching assistantship teaching engineering graphics, and I was able to get access to a computer through my instructorship. So I was able then to make computer images back then. You needed to write code in Fortran, punch holes in cards, submit the deck to a central batch facility, wait 24 hours to get a plot. So you really had to want to make art back then. It was very difficult,
Yeah.
and I collaborated with a mathematician who was majoring in this new thing called computer science. So he helped me learn programming. He taught me about algorithms. Everything was a line, a straight line. The only graphics primitive we had back then was call plot XY. So you could either draw with the pen up or down. So I had to learn about Cartesian coordinates, about drawing spaces. So I began trying to figure out how to use this rudimentary equipment to make art. I was also some of my early pieces, like the banana cone.
Yeah.
I had to digitize images, turn them into tables of numbers, and write code to manipulate them. So to turn a banana into an ice cream cone, I had to have two equal data sets and then linear interpolate between corresponding points. So back then, making computer graphics was like crawling on your hands and knees through 50 yards of broken glass. You really had to want to do it. You had to have kind of privileged access. And I was lucky enough to be in that situation.
Well, I'm sure that that you have lived a lot of different evolutions in this ecosystem. I'm very excited to talk about that. But first, I also wanted to see, well, to know about your story, guys, because I wanted to know when did you met, why, and what's your relationship. Because I know that you help him, Statsier, a lot on the marketing side and everything. But is this a long-term relationship, or you just know a few years ago?
Okay, well, let me fill in the gap. Well, from the 1970s, I went off in the army, came back, got my
Okay.
assistantship back, and with Chris, I started making art again. So we did a lot of plotter drawings until 1980, and it culminated in my MFA show. I got an MFA, first one as an artist to show computer art and get an art degree. I also, towards the end there, collaborated a show in Chicago, Art In and Art Out, which is on my website, of sort of a half a dozen of people who were well, 2 dozen people who were making computer art at the time. And, but that was back in the 70s. Well, life moves on. I had a wife and 2 kids, and I stopped making computer art. But in 2020, during COVID, my son called me up and said, "Hey, Dad, your old computer art's pretty cool. Have you ever heard of NFTs?" So together with my son, I started publishing some of my works on FS Hash and OpenSea and other sites. And Stas, I met him because he actually bought one of my pieces initially.
Okay. So at first he was a collector then.
So he was a collector and he was a visionary because he thought my stuff was cool. And then as my son went one direction, I started working more and more with Stasi in another. Stasi's very well versed in the world of cryptocurrency. And if you all know, at least the modern people know, that you can't really do NFTs without knowing something about crypto.
Mhm.
So he was my patron. We became friends. And then I asked him if he would be my agent to handle with the outside world, the world of crypto and the world of marketing, because he's quite successful businessman on his own as well. So since 1921, or 2021, we've been working together. But in
Okay.
between 1970 and 1920, it was like Rip Van Winkle. I went to sleep for 41 years, and then my son woke me up again.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's a great story from collector to agent. I believe it has been an amazing evolution for you, no? Stasi?
Yeah, I mean, when I saw Dr. Bill's art, I think I really liked it right away. Like, and it has the historical significance, right? Like, he's one of the first to be doing that, so it was natural.
Yeah. No, of
I
course.
really like his art.
Well, it's an amazing art. Like seriously, I have discovered a lot of different collections that you have done on your website, and we'll go through that afterwards. But yeah, amazing stuff, and we can also see the evolution in the tools or in the knowledge in the language that you can start using more stuff. But you mentioned just your MFA, and I'm super curious about the ambience there. What was the atmosphere like at the university for you? Creating digital art? Was it kind of like, oh yeah, the nerds are doing art there with computers, or was it something completely normal and even that people liked?
Well, it was anything but normal. They say the pioneers are the ones who get the arrows in their backs. I
Yeah.
not only had to justify my computer drawings as art, my medium. I had to justify the medium of computer graphics. The oligarchy, the people in established art environments like faculty and museums, they didn't want anything to do with it. I think they were afraid. I had one professor pull me aside and when he found out I made art on the computer, tell me art doesn't come from computers, it comes from nature. Right in a lithography class, he's holding my face up against the window saying, "Look outside, that's where art comes from." But technology has been in art for longer than computers. The camera had to go through the same thing. People
Yeah.
didn't recognize the camera as a legitimate medium. and it is indeed. And now, in the beginning, people didn't recognize the computer as a legitimate medium. Uh, they thought it took the hand out of the process, but it doesn't take the brain out of the process. So I just ignored them and went ahead and did my stuff. And it hasn't been easy. I mean, you when you have to justify what you're doing at the same standard that people are doing it using other medium, it becomes a bit more difficult. So that was the beginning.
Wow. Well, that's something that always happen, I guess. In every generation, we have the same stories of people innovating and older people telling them, no, no, it doesn't work like this. And it's thanks to people like you who don't listen and and continue doing their stuff that we can see something like this emerging.
Well, the tools have changed drastically. You
Yeah.
mentioned earlier. I mean, Fortran, punching holes in cards, assembling decks, submitting them sent batch facility. Nobody would do that anymore. People are so impatient now. If they don't get a drawing on the screen in like a second, they get frustrated. And even when I taught art classes, people wanted to be, they thought they could use a computer and instantly become an artist. Well,
Mm.
there's a lot of misconceptions about computer art. And the main thing is, I'm an artist. I put my work on the line, just like every artist puts his work on the line. And I expect to be judged by some artistic standard. And the fact that the computer is involved shouldn't make a difference, but somehow it did. And now anybody with a browser, I just use straight JavaScript on a Chrome browser, and I can do the most incredible things with it. I can animate. I can use 16.7 million colors. In the
Yeah.
beginning, we had one color, black, and I can do so much more now. It's so much easier that the medium, and there's so much information on the internet on how to do things that all you need is a vision, and that's what's lacking in a lot of these works. I mean, people do fancy stuff, but where's the aesthetic? So that's the best topic in the world to talk about. Where's how do you evaluate art? What's your aesthetic? And that's what I look for in the computer art. And there's some great computer art, NFTs art out there, generative art out there today, much better than mine.
Well, I think that I agree with you on the aesthetic side. You know, aesthetics are very important, and I guess that back on the time, as you said, on very few colors, techniques were not that developed yet. So maybe people were doing stuff that wasn't very good from an aesthetic point of view. But now that we have all these new technologies, all these new languages, and we have explored a lot the aesthetic side of generative art, don't you think that there can be, a shift, and maybe concept is going to be more important in the future also in generative art? Because the technique at the end of the day, and even now more with AI, for people it's quite easy to learn it and to start using it. Of course, it's very hard to master, but the technique and the aesthetics maybe won't take that much importance in the future, don't you think?
Well, I I tried at Stasi's urging artificial intelligence
Okay.
in my art. I did Mid Journey, and at the time, Mid Journey, you could either write a story and it would produce an image
Hmm.
using like 5 billion name value pairs, name image pairs. And I say, draw me a picture of a mermaid, and it knew about a mermaid and it would draw a picture. And I don't know. That's really using database work done by others to create stuff.
No,
Then
but
the
I
other
was
part,
more referring to using AI to code. Today you can also use AI to start coding and to start creating your own generative art algorithms.
well, that was code. It was taking your description and
Yeah,
producing it. I
exactly.
I mean, I don't. Gosh, there's so many programming languages out there. I'm just happy to have Canvas. That's my language, and I'm mastering that. I'm learning, doing more object oriented code. Remember, I didn't code for 41 years, so
Yeah.
I'm kind of back on the bike. And to me, AI is just another toolkit. If I can be so crass, I mean, it's just another box of primitives you can call on.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm not. That's not my art. I tried it. That's not me. My art is, writing algorithms. To me, that's the secret. Coming up with cool algorithms solving, mathematical puzzles, visual puzzles. A piece we're working, we just well, last year I did a piece based on MC Escher's Three Worlds. So we did a whole algorithmic approach to MC Escher piece, and kind of brought his idea, his inspiration up to the modern date. And I suppose you could even go beyond that. Right now, I'm working on another piece, kind of a depth piece using oblique drawing. He was a master craftsman. You can't be a generative artist in general in computer art. You have to pick a niche. So my niche is still writing algorithms and drawing vectors and making images using a one toolkit. There's plenty of stuff there for me to do. Believe me, I don't need to
Okay.
use it.
Well, that's interesting because I was going to ask you on how do you approach your work? Do you have like an artistic vision first, or do you let the algorithms discover the art that you finally want to do? There are like these two different approaches that people talk about.
The way I'm working right now is I collaborate with Chris. After college, Chris went off and worked
Okay.
for Bell Labs for 37 years. So he's a research scientist, and he's retired like me. I'm 77. He's 77. So we just kind of we pioneered the medium once. We're trying to do it again in our own way. So how do I discover things? I have over 100 pieces published on FS Hash. That's sort of my sketchbook. It's like one idea and how do you push it, and you end up, when you have 100 pieces, like having your own toolbox of stuff. Right. So I use this algorithm here, and I got this effect, and I did this kind of thing before. So just like code, just like routines, I can reach and grab into these different little sketch experiments I did. Yeah, this is it. This is, for example, we could start talking about the dragon curve. Here we're exploring fractals. Okay, that's the dragon curve, and Herbert Franke did stuff with the Dracula curve back in the beginning. So he's another OG who died a couple of years ago. So this is based on a mathematical function, and then how do I present this in a way to make it look interesting? And FSH is about static works, right? They're generative in that it's one code, one program. The code of this program generates all these variations, and they're beautiful. They're really beautiful. So since this is my 101st piece, okay, I made it available for 101 Tezos, and there's an edition of 101.
1.1101.
No, sorry. I wish it was 101 Tezos.
Yes.
1.01. So my idea, since this is a sketchbook, is to get ideas out quickly and bounce them off the public. You can see that like 15 people have bought this. So that's not a lot,
Yeah.
but it's just a sketch, right? So you can look at other things. I
Let me
I
go
use
back.
yeah, you can go back. So we've explored fractals. This is based on oscillogram by Franke. I got into mid-century modern and did a series of pieces on that. If you go down, this is work inspired by Vasarely. This is something completely different that Chris and I did. The next one, the not a tessellation, that's actually based on the Zeno's paradox, the ambiguity of limits. So it's like, you get an idea and you work it till you get something pleasing, and then you move on. I mean, look at that. Those lines, it's like spaghetti intertwined, sort of Celtic knots, that kind of marry each other to the edges. And you can go on,
Yeah.
the edge is, you can do another edge the half size of the module previous to it. You can never reach the edge.
Well, we can
And
see
then
that
we
you
did
love exploring stuff. There is so much different collections and algorithms there. It's amazing.
everything
You
as a
you
every
spend
picture has a
your
story.
entire day just playing with the algorithms, no? Or because
Yeah,
here,
they're inspired.
yeah.
They're inspired by things. For
Okay.
example, you try to make a statement, but nobody gets it. The advent of TV, this one, in the beginning, not everybody on their block had a television. So these are rows post World War II homes, where people had televisions. Unless you talk to me, you never, you maybe don't get it. And the televisions, there's even the test pattern, the RCA test pattern for 1955 in there. So there's a lot of stuff in this work that's personal to me. And believe me, that's what I think art is. Art, I'm authentic. I want art to be about my experience. I want to share my experience with the world. And that's what these sketches are. They're one little idea, and sometimes they're complex.
Hmm.
Squiggle's poem right there. That was based on, well, Art Blocks did the squiggle. So
Of
I took
course.
it further, right? But it's really, there was a movie, Dot and the Line, where the dot fell in love with the line. It won the Academy Award in 1965. Chuck Jones, who did Bugs Bunny.
Hmm.
So the dot fell in love with the squiggle, but then the line came along and won the dot away from her. But this is what Squiggle's answer was. She got Squiggle got dumped by the dot, so he went away and learned to write poetry. So there's all kinds of stories in there. And now there's some. If you go down this one right there, Conway tiles. This is from working with a mathematician. This whole idea of a Conway tile. The tessellations have always been fascinating to me, how things fit together. I mean, that was the influence from school. So from school, when did I go to art school? I went to art school in the 60s. That was op art, pop art. MC Escher was popular back then. So those influences have been in my head ever since then. So now you say your question initially was where do you get these ideas? I mean,
Hmm.
they just come to me. A lot of them. I've lived a long life. I have experienced a lot of things. So the ideas come from me, from my existence. How's that
Okay.
for anything?
Well, I guess that when you started so young and you have seen all the evolutions, plus I'm sure that you follow the art market, you must have a million things in your head, and every time that you just go on the computer and start coding, something new
Well,
happens.
to well, to me, it's like self-actualization. When you've had a full life, a wonderful life, uh, you know, I, you know, you want to give back. I mean,
Hmm.
these make me feel good. Making art makes me feel good. I can get lost in the computer 4 hour, 5 hours at a time. Of course, my partner doesn't like it because she thinks I'm being sucked away by this stuff. But this is what I do. And I don't know if I answered your question, but that's the way I feel. A lot of
Yeah,
these
no,
things are
I
old
understand
and
it.
new.
And the thing
It's
is,
old.
I'm asking you this because when I talk to artists that we work with, usually in the gallery we take very into consideration the concept. What's the artist's message, or what do he want to talk about? And not only playing with algorithms and finding something aesthetically beautiful and releasing it. I, at least from my point of view, I prefer collections where artists have a vision, they want to represent something, show something, and they work until they get the result that they wanted from the beginning. That's what excites me the most, because at the end of the day, it tells a story, and it's also related to all these conceptual era. That we have for almost 100 years now. That conceptual art is growing and growing. So I also want to see it in generative art.
Well, every picture I do tells a story. I mean, it may not be coherent to people. They may
Of
not
course.
get it that I do, right?
Hmm.
Uh, so that's important. I worked at Pixar for 10 years. You may not have known this in my 41 years absence from
Yeah, I
India.
checked that. I also wanted to
Uh,
ask you about this. Like, do you think that it influenced a lot this when you started working in 3D rendering? Do you think that this influenced your artistic approach, or
Uh,
did you
it,
separate
it,
both?
it did. Well, from 2D, the logical move is into 3D. And back in the
Yeah,
70s, they hadn't even invented 3D. The
I know.
the CAD was the first thing. Since I was engineering CAD, and we started drawing blocks, and it was from polygons to Boolean operations on solids. That was the beginning back in the 70s and the 80s. I was teaching at Ohio State, and I actually worked with Chuck Surrey at Computer Graphics Research Group, where they put together the first 3D animation systems. So I learned a lot. But one thing I did learn was the importance of story. That's what made Pixar so popular, was to
Yeah.
have a good story. If you're going to put all the effort in the world into making a piece of art and you don't have a good story, it ain't worth doing. I learned that a long time ago.
Hmm.
So, I mean, just there is no, there's two kinds of animation where you have a story and you storyboard it out and you do the keyframes and you put the story together. And the other is called straight ahead animation, where you just start animating. And that's not really good. I mean, a lot of people just start out in a direction and see where it takes them. But I agree with you that looking for a story and a piece of art is really important. That's why you need to have the artist involved, maybe in describing a piece of art or changing your mind about a piece of art. One of the funniest things ever happens to me is when I show works in a gallery and people look at something and say, "I know what you were thinking," and
Oh
you
yeah.
ask them, "Oh yeah, seeing that," and they'll give you their story, and it's not even close to my story, but it's kind of fun. But that's the beauty of art, because it triggers your subconscious. It's about it, your experiences in the world, and a good piece of art will bring that out in a person. So
Mm.
that's what I look for in a piece of art. What I see in it, I may not have the artist's experience, but I have my own experiences, and if that art brings it out, it's great. And another thing about art is I live with art. I mean, it surrounds me. I have art all around me. If you can see background there, I got my mermaids and my old art on the wall. I mean, they're my old friends. So a piece of art is like an old friend.
Mm.
It tells a story. You're comfortable with it. Those are the best pieces.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. And you, Statsi, do you think that this type of art also resonates a little bit more with you? You know, art with concept that clearly tells a story from the beginning.
Yes,
I
I
love the
I look
story.
for.
I for me,
Uh,
sorry, go
Oh,
ahead,
sorry.
Doctor.
no, it was for Stasi the question, but
Yeah. No, for me,
Don't get
I
me started.
my most favorite art of mine is concept art. Like
yeah.
it's I always look for a cool story, like something that really, as Dr. Bill is saying, like stirs something in your mind. Like even if the object itself, I really like for that reason some of the ready-mades. Like when I saw the, for example, the fountain by uh like when the guy turned, I forgot his name at the moment, but you know what I'm talking about. He turned the urinal on the side and he submitted to like the
Marcel Duchamp.
highbrow Paris exhibition. They said every art will be accepted, so he submitted that to test their
Exactly.
limits. And then like he was rejected, but then somehow he made deals with some people and they snuck it in and it was there and then it got kicked out. Like that makes an amazing story, right? Even though
Yeah.
the piece itself, like it's, but it's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's and so
No,
for
that
me,
was
that was always the most captivating part in a piece of art.
Well, I completely share your vision, so that's fine. You want to say
well.
something? Bill?
Picasso put the seat of a bike with the handlebars of a bike and made the head of a bull with it. That's what Stasi's talking about. Those are found arts. He had a vision. Art is all around you. The newer stuff, like quantum jump, that's comes out of experiments with fractals. So I'm actually going back and trying to play with things I skipped over in 41 years. So there's some retro investigation going on in my part, but I'm always looking for something different that gives me that oh wow kind of
Mhm.
effect in my art. That's why I'm sort of moving away from static pieces into motion graphics now. I mean,
Mm.
the two last pieces I did were these Tesla discs with electricity, and every time they bounce off each other, they generate a force. And it's all these new ideas.
Mm.
You got to have experience from it. And this last piece, right over your head, that's
Yeah, I
quantum
took
jump.
it from Gamma. I see. It's a very interesting one. I saw it on Gamma. I was
That's
like, okay, let's go. I'm going to use it now.
Well, that's only a part of it. It starts out as a triangle, which is a fractal, three-sided, then it goes four-sided, five-sided, up to 10-sided, then it comes back down. So every
Hmm.
time it changes a degree from third degree to fourth degree or three-sided to four-sided, it jumps. So there's a lot of quantum jumps. I mean, that could be like inspiration. A lot of times we're looking at one thing and all of a sudden, bam, like that, another thing happens. So that,
Hmm.
I don't think artists really can explain their work, because if they were really just making art from their soul, it just comes out the way it comes out.
No, I
And
agree.
the
That's
story,
beautiful. Yeah, that's beautiful.
you know,
That's a beautiful quote you got here. Well, I wanted also to ask you about, those early plotter works, because now you're doing some more animated stuff. But at the beginning, with the technology that you had, you did some very basic plotter works that were very innovative at the time. But some of the artworks I've seen on the internet, they have been collected by institutions and major collectors. What does it mean for you to gain recognition now? I'm sure that you didn't expect it when you started creating this, but today, how does it feel for you?
well, I think I got scared. I kept
Oh
my
yeah.
art under my bed for 40 years. And I was worried after my son woke me up and I started making NFTs, I pulled it out. I have about 80 pieces. And together with Stasi, we've kind of preserved that, and we made that art available. You can actually purchase the old plotter art I have. Remember, a lot of it was innovative in that all I remember I had was a line, an algorithm. I went from a line to a circle. I went from uh, geometric shapes to representational shapes. I went through algorithms. I learned a language of vision, actually, Georg Keppisch from the Bauhaus school, where, you know, I think about my image spaces, my spatial forces, my forms of spatial organization. And I do that because that puts a framework together for me to write algorithms within. So as I do this, I start having these connections with an ordered universe. Um, the plotter art are my classics. That's like Picasso's blue period. That was my blue period. Okay, and now I'm into a different period. This piece you brought up, and I'm glad you brought it up now, is was suggested to me. It's Bitcoin ordinals. There's four pieces we select, or five pieces where we did four works of each one, and they're selected by me. The only one that's not has randomness in it is this banana cone. This was the first piece that I did using the plotter that I considered art that was different than anything else I had seen. My wife at the time liked banana ice cream, so I drew a banana and I drew an ice cream coast, and I learned this algorithm is linear interpolation, changing one thing into another, and that's
Yeah,
an
I've
algorithm I
seen I've seen this multiple times in your work, and I discovered this, when we did this art exhibition in NFT Paris. You submitted this artwork, and when I saw it, I was like, What is this?" And so I did some research, and I understood, and I saw that you have a lot of different artworks that play with this evolution mechanism that goes from something to another thing. And I haven't seen a lot of artworks, at least in the NFT space, that plays with that. So yeah, very interesting.
well, I mean, the only thing constant in life is change. So this is, changing one thing into another. And this is not, maybe if you did AI today, you could say, hey, AI, give me a banana. Hey, AI, give me an ice cream cone. Hey, turn
Okay.
one into another. I don't think you'd get anything close to that. Now,
No,
this is
I'm sure
another thing.
about it. Yeah.
I could, each one of these is kind of good. These are all plotter pieces. Just pick one.
Yeah.
Scorpion spin is a digitized image, or let's talk about geese. This is, if you remember, Andy Warhol did a whole series on soup cans where it was the same image, slightly different put together. Well, this is kind of a takeoff on the 60s pop art where I take one image and I do an array of that image. One of the things the computer could do that we learned in the beginning was repetition. It would just draw as much as you told it to draw. Nobody could draw this by hand. So here we're making a departure from drawing by hand to drawing with the computer. Nobody's going to draw 400 geese by hand. So the computer can do it. But underlying the drawing of the image, which had to be digitized in a certain way and then scaled and placed, all transformed into place, is an algorithm that orients the direction of the bird. So by writing an underlying algorithm, and Chris helped me with this in the beginning, the from the shape of the wings, you start getting this flow across it. Now, this was another one of the pieces where I had, oh my God, aha, I'm going to be a computer artist for the rest of my life. And it seems kind of, simplistic by today's standards, but this was, innovative and unique at the time.
Hmm.
I mean, other than looking at soup cans and seeing other kind of repetitious works, this was taking advantage of the medium. So I was really learning about the medium. What can the medium do that makes it unique? What makes it special? So repetition is one thing. It does the same thing over and over again. That's called automation, right?
Yeah. Well, did
If
it
you can
work
get
from the beginning? You know, when you started plotting this, did you manage to make it work for the first time every time, or you have to come back every day to make it again? Because if it took like 1, 2, 3 days to print something very basic, you must lose a lot of time every time that you do a mistake, right?
well, you learn to work carefully, which people don't do anymore. People do
Well, now
things.
with blockchain, you have to work carefully because everything
We had
is.
to work very carefully back then. And yeah, I mean, you don't start out with the finished piece. You start out with a vector, an arrow, or just a
Yeah.
simple one. And then you use those as placeholders and add the more complex ones. So pick another one there. This is an experiment with 3D. I generated this menagerie of the geese is in there. There's a fat cat, there's an elephant, and what else? A frog. Okay. And from the 60s, the Fat Freddy's cat from Stone comic books or whatever, Zap comic books. I mean, these are all inspirations from the day. Elephants or flying elephants from Dumbo. They're all kind of inspiration. But I was teaching engineering graphics at the time, and we were developing equations for doing perspective drawing. So this is a cylinder in 3D, mathematically represented, where you're looking down the length, the axis of the cylinder. And what I did was now I know how to describe a cylinder and what its surface looks like. I randomly pick points on the surface and draw my funny little creatures. So what am I doing? I'm making 3D, actually 2.5D, with a very primitive medium. And this again was another, wow, this is cool. This is perspective drawing. This is creating depth. See, this is one of those things. Nobody was doing anything with depth in the beginning. So I was doing something with depth. This gives you a tunnel, a creature tunnel. That's the name of it.
Yeah. No, it's a very interesting artwork. Well, everything that you picked here, I guess that it's very important to you.
Well, this is like an artist's choice here. What we wanted to do. This is the only one that's updated. This is I don't know if you ever heard Peter Max, but the colors he used. This is a piece called Bulges and Dents, and if you go on my plotter art, you can find the original drawing. So this is bulges and dents, but using these are epicycloids. So this is a geometric shape that's being permuted by algorithm to either go into the screen or come out of the screen.
Yeah.
Like
Hmm.
like breasts and navels from an
Yeah, it has
artistic point of
all the depth and in every
view.
circle.
So there's mathematically breasts and navels, and then I tessellate it and I use the algorithm to squash and stretch these colorful shapes on it. I mean, I love this piece. That bicycloids is like the old spirograph. Put a little line, draw little curves, and
Mm.
they're multi-lobed. But if you look at this piece, you get all kinds of beautiful coming and
It's very
going. It's
hypnotizing, and every time that you move your eyes, well, you get into the into the deep
so
of the artwork every
this
time.
So in this series, this was the only up to date piece that I did. It's an
Mhm.
old algorithm with kind of this color effect.
Okay.
We couldn't do color in the beginning. If you
Yeah.
remember the first monitor, we had one color. It was either, well, it could have been orange, green, or black or white on a white screen or a black screen.
Yeah. So
So
you could
then
you could
came
only do these kind of things, of course. Yeah.
then came the
Well,
personal computer where you could get 4-bit, you could get 8-bit, you could get 16-bit color. And then finally you could get 32-bit color. And that was enough because in 32 bits you could represent 16.7 million colors.
yeah.
This last piece, Scorpion Spin, I was married to an English woman and she was a Scorpio and I was a Scorpio. And this was about our relationship. We would just put one foot on the ground and run around in a circle. We'd have arguments. We'd make love. We'd had fun. We bought a rug in Greece in Mykonos, and I got the pattern of the scorpion off of a rug that we bought on holiday in Greece. So this is about a
Well, so it
relationship.
tells a story. Definitely, your art tells a story. This one is a great story. I love it.
Okay, well, but they're pushing the medium. The thing that's significant about this was when all you got is line, everything, looks like, what does
Hmm.
it say? If all you have a nail, everything looks like a hammer. If all you got is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. This, I was doing drawings with tone. Do you see? Creating grayscale, creating tone. That was, as an artist, I wanted to draw with tone. Because I could take charcoal and make this effect. Well, how do you make it with a plotter? So that's what's significant about this piece. This is the first piece that's not just contrast black on white. There's actually some grayscales in it by doing the overlapping. So that's what's significant about this piece. See, so it's pushing the medium. The plotter art is really the discovery of the medium and pushing it towards being a legitimate uh, tool for making art.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Every
all
time
these,
that there was something new, you were just playing with it, and until you master it. And we see the same thing right now also on ordinals. I see some artists that are playing with the medium. Now with ordinals, you can, well, with blockchain, you can create blockchain art. So you are using data from the blockchain to animate your artwork, for example, or to generate it through some values that you're taking from there. And it feels the same way every time that in ordinals we have a new recursive endpoints. There are artists that experiment with it and play with it to create something new, and nobody knows what's going to happen when you start discovering these new features. So I think that there are a lot of similarities between back then your time when everything here started and now blockchain time where collectors can now collect your work, because I guess that before NFTs, before blockchain, almost no one collected digital or generative artworks, right? Maybe some plotters, but
yeah. Well, I used to sell these on the street when I do an
okay.
art fair. I printed them on paper stock. I sold them 25 cents a piece, six for $1. And I was hoping I'd make enough money to pay for the beer that I drank that day. So, I mean, there was that was how I actually promoted the medium. Every artist is a marketing person. I mean,
Yeah.
unless they just make art for themselves and sit in a room all day long, that's fine. But last, I would like to leave about the plotter art. The plotter art was how I discovered the rules that people are using are the same now for generative art. The idea of controlled randomness, uh, those ideas that are the foundations of generative art were discovered by me and others in the 70s.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And
But do you think that there are some parallels also between all the difficulties and stuff that you have to deal with in back in the 70s and the 80s and now? Do you think that artists also have the kind of the same problems but with different mediums, or do you think it's completely new and now we are in a new era where maybe artists, at least generative artists, have an easier uh, way of creating and selling their art?
I think it's a lot easier now.
Yeah,
But yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could, with just canvas, you can be a generative artist,
yeah.
Uh, but what, this is a good question about what's modern, who's pushing what now, which
Hmm.
direction what's the future of the media? Is it all it's not flat anymore. Most art you have to look at a screen nowadays.
Yeah.
But how do you make it immersive? How do you interact with your art? How do you get a personal experience? I think if you put VR on where you could actually become part of your art, that's a direction. Those are kind of problems now that young artists have to address, is because there is a history to computer art that goes back to the 70s. Okay, so we're at what, 2025. Oh, how do we go, where's it going to go past this? It's going to be like the Matrix, where you jack into your art and you become your art. I mean, that's the future, right?
Well, there is
And
a lot of discussion about how to experience digital art, and for sure, these ideas that we got are very exciting. I don't know how far we are from that, but even today, just displaying a generative art piece sometimes it's complex. Last time we faced that, it was in Paris. Screens are not prepared for that. If the video is not in the right format, resolution, whatever, it fails. You have to generate it back again. So there is no proper way of displaying this easily. At least for a collector, you do have to do some research. And also for blockchain art, it's even harder. I have artists that created art that is animated with the blockchain data. So the whole purpose of the artwork is to show it live. And if you don't have a computer connected to the screen, where you cannot experience the whole piece of art, and you need to do a video about it and add it with an USB key, and it's not the same. So for sure there are some new challenges, and I hope that the market is going to be, yeah, it's going to go faster, and maybe some people are going to be motivated by creating this sort of augmented reality stuff that is going to help artists. At least I see some things like this when I go to some museums. They do have these glasses that you put on, and it works pretty well. But is this what a collector wants to have? I don't know.
No, I'm just starting to get my work collected. So my answer is, in the meantime, buy a OG's plotter art and hang it on your wall.
For sure,
But
yeah.
I mean, I just did a show in Buffalo, New York, AKJ Museum. It's called Electric Op, and they're collecting. They collect their art. I'm part of their permanent collection, and it's brick and mortars. They buy art, they store it for different exhibitions. They'll put it together. So there's a traditional brick and mortar approach to art, which which the world kind of accepts right now. When we were in Berlin at the Generative Art Summit, there was 2 days. There was the OG day and the New Art Day. So the OGs, we all had produced art in the 70's and 80's, and we had output that showed what we did. The new guys, you need screens, you need different environments, you need performance, you need cameras. It's just gone in that direction. So this is the big question. I mean, you're struggling with it as a
It's
gallery.
difficult. Yeah.
How do you deal with all this visual stuff coming at you, right?
Yeah. No, it's a hard question, and I know that a lot of people are trying to find solutions for that, but yeah, we'll see. I wanted to ask you now that because you talk about this new generation that's creating generative art, what would you advise for these new artists that are just starting into generative art? Do you have some advices for them?
Yeah, just do it. Don't listen to anybody else. That was got me through. There's going to be a lot of naysayers on there, and a lot of people get offended. You learn that they don't go to art school, so they don't have the benefit of going through critique, where you put your art out and you talk about it. Sort of like uh, putting your genitals on a table and giving everybody a hammer. That's people are just afraid of being criticized.
Yeah.
So, I mean, art isn't sacred. It's an experience. It's personal. It's not about making money, although a lot of people have made money off of generative art. I don't get the cyberpunk thing. I made fun of it. I did cyberpunk soup cans, one of my pieces. But people don't you don't know what becomes popular. So the point of to answer your question is, my advice to young artists is just do it. And the analogy is, when I taught media arts in a local community college here, people found out I went to Pixar, and they go, "Oh, I want to get a job at Pixar." And I go, "Well, what have you got to offer Pixar? Why would they hire you?" So the idea is, what do you have to give to the world? Now, if you don't care, if you just want to make art for you be bohemian. That's what they used to call bohemian, where you just made art and you drank and you smoked, right? But now, I mean, art. What role does art play in our lives? Why do we make art? What's important? As a young budding artist, why do you want to make art? One of the least paying jobs in the world right now is being an artist. So why would you want to do it, right? So that's the questions you should be asking people. What's your intention? What do you want to do with it?
Well, for sure. So one thing is doing it, and I guess that a lot of people now, with the social media, etc., it's easier for them. Maybe at the beginning they are going to start anonymous or whatever if they are afraid of reactions, as you said. But I also think that this whole blockchain and NFT thing empower the artist, but yourself, you are now working in collaboration with Chris, who's your manager, your agent. Do you think that's something that artists should also look into that, because it's not that popular nowadays, or at least in blockchain Web3 art. I know that in the traditional art model, artists get surrounded by agents, but yeah, why did you choose to have
Well,
an agent?
because it was overwhelming for me. I remember I took 41 years off. I didn't understand crypto. I didn't understand a lot of it. So that's how I got over the gap. So for me, it was important. Plus, Stas is a great guy to hang out with. We have a lot of fun together.
Yeah,
There's
well,
a lot of,
I also think that there is a part of this, when you live the artist life, you also want to share it with people, and well,
absolutely.
life is boring alone.
Well, and he's a risk taker. He opened up a digital gallery in Toronto, and it was great. I mean, it was a place to show digital art. He closed down the digital gallery in Toronto because it wasn't profitable enough. He couldn't make a living doing that. So he's like a pioneer too. He got a few arrows in his back. So we have kind of a kindred spirit about things. Uh, I there's I don't there's not enough room in my brain for all the stuff that is out there. I just want to make art. I To me right now in my life the most important thing is time and how I spend it. And I'd rather spend my time making art and bouncing things off of people and what do you think of this? Is there, whatever. And then he and Luca, who's not here, they come up with ideas like how to get on Bitcoin ordinals, how to get on Gamma. And there's a thing called Vivid. Now all of a sudden Vivid is here and we want to support you. So I'm a content provider. That's what I am. And that's my role. And I think you need more than just being a content provider to be known and successful today.
Oh
That's
yeah,
my opinion.
I love this way of seeing it, because at the end of the day, if you are an artist, you want to focus on your art, and that's also when you are most creative. Nowadays, with social media, like artists have become even more of an entrepreneur, even if there was already this artist entrepreneur model back then. But I think that in Web3, we see a lot of marketplaces going down, a lot of art projects also closing because the business model is not sustainable anymore. And I also think that if you're an artist and want to focus on your art, and also want to have some time to enjoy the life that your art provides you, or at least you can live from your art, well, having a partner, an agent, a gallery that helps you is worth every percentage that you may give to them, because at the end of the day, you also want to enjoy life, and you don't want to be prisoner of your own artistic career, right?
Absolutely. I mean, all great artists. Picasso had an agent. Dali had an agent. They all have agents, right? Warhol had an agent. That's just, you know, something you need if you're serious.
Yeah,
You can't
yeah,
do it
well,
alone. The age of the Renaissance man is over. You can't do it all.
yeah. No,
Well, let
I
me
get that
start
it's
this.
super hard to do everything. And how do you see it then, Chris? Do you feel like you're really adding a lot of value to Dr. Bill's career, the same way that another person or even you could add value to every digital artist that's out there? Or do you think that it's specifically to Bill because you have a good relationship and that's what helps you? Or do you think that the role of an agent or a manager could be extended to almost every artist that you may know?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think it's more so personal connection. and being inspired by his work for me.
Mhm.
And I mean, when I first bought his work, I never thought about we're gonna develop this situation. It was just a natural process, and getting to meet Dr. Bill through his son Nick at the time, and once I discovered his work, and then like being inspired by his work first, and then by his personality second, and then
Mhm.
we met, and we liked each other, and the situation naturally developed. I never thought about like, oh, I want to be an agent or like represent, and 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 it's really hard to scale. Like, I mean, for me, I wouldn't want to do it again. Like, it's plenty to. It's more just a personal connection and being inspired by Dr. Bill's work and his personality, and like all that's related to that, as he was saying. As far as value that I add, I think it's better for him to answer that. And But as far as like what he was saying and you are saying, I think it's definitely true. Artists, it's really hard to do it alone, and if they're able to like to have that kind of situation with someone who is inspired by the work and is willing and able to help them, that's an incredible situation. It's a lucky situation, I think.
Mhm. No, I think the same. I think that you want to live life, and having someone that helps you, you just focus on what you do best. And it's the same in every company, in every business, in every project. You just team up with someone that's gonna help you doing what you may not know how to do it, and also to give you time, because if you have to spend 24 hours a day working on your thing, and well, you don't leave, what's the point of it? Well, maybe if you are super creative and you cannot stop working, but I don't think that that's the case of every artist, at least when you start having a few years making a living of your art. I think that's also when you want to live more experiences that life has to offer, that also gonna help you being more creative and create more stuff. You know?
Yeah, and you as a gallery, right? Vivid Gallery, I would imagine that's what you do as well. You help artists to showcase their
Exactly.
work and get more eyeballs on their work and hopefully make sales and all of that, right?
Exactly. That's and actually, well, I'm super interested in this topic because I feel it at Vivid. We are trying to build something different that people are used to in Web3. You have seen a lot of marketplace platforms, launch pads, but not a lot of projects that help the artist from a very closer relationship as an agent may have, and it feels weird because artists notice that it's important, but also the market is very different. But at the same time, we're also seeing all these other projects going down, because at the end of the day, you cannot have a platform with 1,000 collections releasing every month. Collectors don't want that, so they also want to have a closer relationship with a curator, a gallery that they trust, because they share more or less the same tastes. So that's also super important. And yeah, we're trying to offer more or less the same services because we believe that's what an artist needs if they also want to be serious. And that's something that I heard from Bill. I think that's the point. If you want to be serious and working as an artist for decades, well, you need to start working with people and just focusing on your art, or as much as you can.
Well, I don't know, like anything else. I've learned over the years that you need a balance in life, action and repose. So there's periods of intensity where I like to work, and then there's periods where life gets in the way and I have to leave, or I want to take time off. I
Yeah.
was thinking while you were talking about all this, what's different about the past and the present? I don't think I've seen, and maybe this is a role you can play as a gallery, is to support a workshop where you could bring together groups of artists for a day. I think in person is best, but even virtually, and maybe have a group work on a project and move on. Some collaboration for me is one of the biggest payoffs in doing this. I mean, I work with a guy who's so far out, so into mathematics, he reads a paper, he finds an error, he writes the author and tells them how to fix it. You know, there's a lot of super smart people that are goggled into their stuff, but I feel he takes time out to interact with me, and he's better for it.
Hmm.
So, you know, how do you bring artists together to share what they do? And that gives us an energy to go on and do more. That was what was great about going to Berlin for a week and meeting all the other OGs that in the beginning, there was no internet when I started working. Think about that. How did you find out about what other people were doing? Well, Herbert Franke wrote a book. And in his book were pictures of people in these remote places doing things and pictures of them. And that was what inspired me in the beginning. The fact that there were people like me elsewhere trying, doing the same, struggling with the same stuff I was. So I actually became friends with Herbert, and you know, we supported each other. And the community was smaller then, but now there's so many people in so many places. I like Stasi brought people together in his gallery. You know, he brought the Asian people in, and you know, Toronto's a real great melting pot, a great place for people. All these people with different backgrounds and abilities, and you know, it was a place to collaborate and share. But there's no real payoff in it for you as a gallery owner. But it's what's necessary. How do I would love to talk to some of the new generative artists about what they do. Some of their work actually inspires me, and I would like to share with them some of the past and some of the processes and my trials and tribulations get to the point where I am. So I even find great pleasure in looking like at MC Escher's work or Vassarelli's work or people that I loved in the past, and kind of looking closely at that and trying to bring that back into my work, kind of as, you know, tribute on homage to them. Vera Molnar. I mean, I've done tributes to Molnar, to Bangert, to Roger Coquer. I mean, people you probably never heard of, people that were, you know, there at the beginning and who aren't there anymore. Ken Knowlton, Herbert Franke, they're dead. So, I mean, my time is limited, but I think, you know, there's a greater body, of knowledge, a greater, this generative art is a greater thing where I'm just like a pebble on the beach, a world that you know, people need to somehow learn about, collaborate in, and you know, really push it together, push it forward together. And how do you do that?
No,
I
it's
don't know
interesting
the
that you brought this the workshop thing because I share your vision on that. We organized, for example, what we called an artist retreat in Rome, like 1 year ago, in a big villa, and so it was like 6 artists and a few collectors that came there, and we spent a week together, and it was amazing just seeing how some artists connected. They also were showing what they were working on, and it inspired everyone. So yeah, I think that's super important. And who is organizing these kind of things? Almost nobody.
I don't
So that's one of our goals to do at least 1 or 2 artist retreats a year where you guys can connect. And as you said, it
Well,
doesn't bring
I
any.
volunteer to
Yeah.
come to Rome. You can come. I'll go to Rome. No,
Well,
I think.
you know, you have to do these kind of things in Europe. It's way cheaper.
Oh yeah.
We enjoy good food in Rome. It was amazing. Luca is Italian. I'm sure he's listening to this, and yeah, we had a great time. So I want to do another one, maybe in Spain, in Switzerland, something like this. We'll see. Portugal.
Yeah. Well, any place but America in the next 4 years. So you know.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, in America, the thing is, everything is also super expensive. And for us, as we are based in Switzerland, it's super complex to organize such a thing in a country that's so far away. And I don't know the US. So
I'm just
I
kidding. I
wouldn't
mean,
even know where to pick, what city to pick or what place. I don't know.
I'm just kidding. Uh, whatever. Do whatever you can to bring people together. How's that?
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, we have a base chain here listening to us, and he said that he picked one of your pieces a few days ago. So look, you have
Yay!
collectors here. That's great. Well, I also had a last question before we close the show. Do you have any projects or ideas that you haven't explored yet after all this time, but you'd love to pursue?
Oh, that's a tough one. Um, I find myself not trying to be like everybody else, to be me. So I'm looking for projects that are important to me, um, and just trying to reflect, on what I can do to bring the works of people who went before me to the front again through my own actions. I don't know. I At this point, something shiny is happening in the corner of the room. I'm attracted to it. So
Okay.
I want to stay focused on doing something that's authentic, and that I guess is my future. Just trying to be true to myself and to be honest. And I think that's what people want from an artist. They don't want
Mhm.
you to be anything else.
No, 100%, and even more in this space where a lot of people disappointed the community, the ecosystem. So yeah, for sure, honesty and transparency are, I think, key values in this space, and even more for an artist. So yeah, you're right. Okay, well, that's good. That's good. That's good.
Well, I enjoyed our time together. I love the setting that we're in, and I think you're doing a wonderful job. And keep it up. I
Thank
will
you.
support you
Thank you so
as much
much.
as I
Well,
can.
we'll try to support you too. I think that you have a lot to offer to this space, and I'm glad that you shared your story with our collectors, with our community, and yeah, well, good luck with everything that you are doing in Ordinals. I think well, we're gonna put it again here. Dr. Bill has a collection here on Magic Eden, and he told about it. So if you just joined the live, I recommend you to listen in again, and maybe some of these pieces will interest you. But you also have some things on Gamma right now, right? And of course, all your collections on FX Hash.
Yes.
Super
On
exciting.
Gamma, we have motion graphics, and on object.com, I have a graphics gallery. So there's some other studies on object.com called the motion gallery. So yeah, it's in a couple of places. We try to use drbillkalamjic.com sort of as the hub of all
Mm.
things Dr. Bill. And I don't know if it's too long for people to type in, but drbillkalamjic.com. We've got uh, an NFT section. We've got a hard copy section. You can actually still acquire pieces of Dr. Bill's art that he slept on for 40 years. There's about
Oh yeah,
70 pieces left,
the Plotter
and
piece, the Plotter prints,
the
this
plotter
one.
pieces are
Yeah.
still available. Yeah, right there.
Also,
And they're getting a
some
little
of them
gray
are
around
sold
the
out.
edges.
Also. Yeah.
So we have, things that are going and left. Uh, I am starting to be collected in several places. So get them while they're hot.
I want this one.
All right, we can make a deal.
No, that's amazing,
That's
man.
my
I'm sure that a lot of people from maybe outside of the Web3 ecosystem is interested by that, but slowly people are also going to realize, how valuable these pieces of art are, because even if it was something completely new at the time, and it's very basic compared to what we see today on platforms like Artblocks, as you mentioned. Well, man, these pieces are just piece of history, seriously. So yeah, I'll take a look, and I'll invite my collectors to check it out, because you have some great stuff here. The banana cone, I love it. But now that you explained the story about these the scorpions one, I like it also. No, not this one. I need to check. Well, it's exciting, but yeah, it was a great pleasure having you guys here. I love your story. I love that you are still, yeah, creating generative art. No, I'm a big fan of music, and every time that I see pioneers in rock or something like this releasing new albums, I'm like, oh my god, this is passion. This is people that are really interested in what they've created, and continue doing it. So yeah, it's fascinating. Congratulations for this.
okay. One last reference. If you
Of
like
course.
music, I did a couple pieces with some original music by a friend of ours, and he was a Russian who had to flee Russia to live in Israel. Uh,
Ooh.
but anyway, there's a piece. I forget the names of them. Object.com, two pieces. One called Hurricane Hunter. Let's just go there.
Is it here?
Can you get to? Uh,
Actually, object
how do
is
we get
not
there?
there. You just If you just go to object and then search for Dr. Bill, you will find it. Or
Object.
you
Motion
can go
gallery.
to the motion gallery. This one, the fish,
This one?
the
Ah,
koi
yeah,
fish
okay.
motion gallery. Go to that. So it takes you to
And there,
object,
yeah,
and then
they're
if
there.
you, oh yeah, they're
So
here.
that's three. But this one, maybe we can end on it. The very first one there. It's called Love Bugs.
Ah,
Oh,
not
that's
this one.
Firebush.
Okay.
No,
Love bugs.
The very first one,
Ah,
yeah,
this one.
there, Love
red
Bugs.
on black.
All right, and just click on the screen.
Oh yeah, I
There you
hear a
go.
few things, but I don't know if people hear it too.
I hear it a bit.
So this is original music by our friend
Stuberg
Suberg.
is
Yes.
his artist name. But this is generative music.
This is generative music. Okay.
Yeah.
So it to me this is like for a discotheque. It's just crazy.
Well,
bugs.
But here
I saw that you liked this our intro, from Dire Straits. So
yeah, Dire
it's a
Straits.
bit different style of
Money
music.
for nothing. The money for nothing, kicks for free.
Exactly. Well, that's for you artists. You're earning money for nothing. So it had to be it had to be the intro of the show. No, but more seriously, I'm super happy. Look, Base Chain is also asking you to join the community. Well, I don't know if you are already in our Discord, but I'm sure that people will enjoy seeing you there. You just join our Discord and say hi from time to time. Talk with other artists. You'll see it's an amazing community
Okay,
there. And also for
you're
everybody
in
that's
Discord.
listening here, if you haven't
What?
joined the Discord, come there. You will see there are a lot of people there talking about art almost every day. So I'm sure you will have a good time. Well,
All right,
guys,
I'll look into it.
we're gonna close this. It's getting late here, and it was a great interview. So I'm gonna share it everything. If you haven't liked and retweet this interview yet, guys, please support us, support Dr. Bill, because more people need to know about your story and your art. So thank you everybody that listened to this. And maybe you have some closing words. Do you want to say, Dr. Bill?
Use your time wisely.
Use your time wisely. I love this. And you, Chris?
Das. Yeah, no, just want to say thank you, Gerard. It was nice to connect with you. Thanks to Luke as well, who's probably
Yeah.
listening.
Thank you,
Couldn't
Lucas.
join us on the stage, but thank you to him. And yeah, I think you're doing great work. Um, Bitcoin Ordinals is apparently the new home of art, and it's been amazing. And I'm glad that Dr. Bill was able to join that party and continues to. Hopefully, maybe his next work will be released as a Bitcoin's Ordinals. We will see. But thank you
Yeah.
for the interview, and I wish you the best of luck with
Thank you.
everything you
Thank you
do,
so
man.
much. Well, we're trying to build here art on Bitcoin. It's gonna be a big thing. I'm really believing in it. So we'll see. We are making everything that we can do for it, and we're gonna continue fighting. So yeah. Well, thank you so much, guys. I'm gonna close the show now, and remember that art on Bitcoin never dies. Bye bye.
Bye. Thank